Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining in for this webinar. My name is Vipul and I lead co-marketing for VWO. I'll be your moderator for today. For those who are hearing about VWO for the first time, VWO is the world's most trusted and easiest to use A/B testing and conversion rate optimization platform. Our guest speaker for today is Ish Jindal. Ish is the founder of TARS, a conversational landing page builder that helps online businesses double their conversion rates. Now, before I let Ish introduce himself and start the presentation, I would request everyone to put in whatever questions they have during the course of presentation using the GoToWebinar's questions panel. And yes, this session is being recorded and the same will be shared with you within the next 48 hours. So, Ish, with this, the stage is all yours.
Thanks, Vipul, for having me. Hey everyone, my name is Ish. I am the founder of a company called TARS. We help marketers who are running paid campaigns like Google ads or Facebook ads to increase their conversion rate by 50% using conversational landing pages. In this session webinar over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to talk about how you can make your post-click experience better using conversational landing pages. Now, if post-click experience or conversational landing pages seem like jargon to you, don't worry about it because that's what we're going to talk about in the next 30 minutes, right? So jumping right into it, I'm going to start with something I'm pretty sure all of you would know, which is a cost per click, which essentially means how many dollars you have to pay to Google to get someone to click on your ad, right? And this is basically sort of a list by industry as to how much you end up paying for every click. Now, I wanted to put this slide because I would just want to showcase that there is around $50 you have to pay to get someone to click on your ad. And I was actually looking at this screenshot from someone at on LinkedIn yesterday, which was around how much you actually pay if you are trying to rank for keywords like lawyer fees for car accident, right? Which is insanely high, like $600 for a click. But what's more insane or unfortunate is we as marketers don't spend a lot of time and effort in optimizing the experience after someone clicks on an ad. Like you are spending $600 for someone to click on your ad, and you don't spend enough time and effort on optimizing or making the experience after someone has clicked on your ad to be really engaging and nice. And that's what post-click experience means. It's everything that happens between someone after someone has clicked on your ad and before they convert into a lead. And what a bad post-click experience means is the average conversion rate across industries is around 3 to 4%. What that essentially means is out of the 100 people who have clicked on your ad, only 3 to 4 people end up giving their information. The rest 96, 97 people have actually just dropped off. So if you are in the insurance industry, you spent $5,000, 15 to 100, $5,000 on ads on the clicks, and only 3, 4 people have actually given their information, right? And we end up spending too much time on the pre-click experience, which basically means you would optimize your ad copies, you would make nice creatives, keyword optimization, and whatnot. And what the post-click experience really looks like at this point of time is something like this. We are taking people to boring landing pages, which nobody likes, right? And which is why 90% of the prospects are just dropping off. Why I say boring landing pages is I've tried to basically break down why the current static landing pages are not something I would want or why people drop off. And I've tried to break down into 4 major parameters as to what is really wrong with the current static landing pages. The first one is basically too much content, right? Which essentially means that as marketers or someone who is writing the copy of the landing page, we just want to share whatever we know on the landing page. And as a user, once I land, I'm just overwhelmed with the kind of or the amount of content that exists, right? I think I was reading this somewhere where it mentions that people are not really reading but hunting for information because there is the attention spans are so low that people just can just go back to their Facebook and Instagram rather than just being on your landing page, right? The second problem is nobody likes to fill out forms. Like I'm pretty sure I don't like to fill out form, and I'm pretty sure you would not be, willing to fill out forms either. But having said that, both of us would be filling out 5 to 10 forms on a weekly basis, right? And this has not really changed in the last couple of decades. The third thing is all of these landing pages were built with desktop and laptop in mind, like because there was no mobile um, device back in the day. Like 15 years back, people were not really building for mobile devices, right? But I'm pretty sure that 70 to 80% of your users or your prospects or your customers would be landing on your landing pages from mobile devices. And the current landing pages are not built for that. They were just optimized for mobile devices. They're not being built thinking a mobile device in mind. And the fourth thing is these pages are not really intuitive, because if all the landing pages look very different from one another. If you're in insurance industry, the landing page would be very different from being in a healthcare. But as a user, it takes time and effort to figure out every different landing page. Specifically, if you talk about older demographics, they would be having a tough time figuring out different elements on different landing pages. Now, as a result of all of this bad post-click experience, it eventually leads to a high cost per lead, a low conversion rate, and basically your dollars being going into the bin, right? You essentially lose dollars on every click that doesn't convert. And so I've been talking about all of these issues with the static landing pages just to point out the problem that exists at this point of time, and what has to be fixed or what should be fixed, and how we've been trying to do this for the last 2.5 years now. Is we're saying, can we make this entire landing page experience really engaging, really intuitive, very simple, and how we've been trying to do, and trying to tell other marketers as well, is using conversational landing pages. So this is what a conversational landing page looks like, which is essentially if someone is searching for a keyword, say a credit card, they would look at a Google ad, they will click on this ad, and they would land directly into an experience which would be an automated chat. Like there is literally nothing else on the page but just a chat experience. If I have to just switch to what this experience looks like, this is what the experience would look like. You can essentially see that on this screen, there is nothing else but these message bubbles on the left, and this is what a user can do. There's only one thing the user can do. They can just click on these buttons, right? And if you are on I don't know if I could be able to do that, but yeah, this is what the experience would look like if they are on a mobile device. Like it would cover the entire screen. And I would talk about why it works, why is it better in the later part of this session, but I just wanted to give you a first-hand look at what the experience looks like, right? Now, what you've seen over the last couple of years is conversational landing pages convert at least a 50% better compared to any existing landing page, static landing page that you might be using at this point of time. I'll quickly run through, why this happens, why conversational landing pages convert 50% better, and I'll just try to relate it to what we discussed earlier. What were the issues with the existing landing pages, right? The first one was there is too much content on the existing landing pages, and what happens with a conversational landing page or a chatbot. So I'll keep switching between conversational landing page and a chatbot because essentially it's the same thing. It's just two different words being used for the same experience, right? So with a static landing page, I was talking about there's too much content on the page, right? Now, what happens with a conversational landing page or a chatbot is you're asking just one question at a time. Like literally, the chatbot is providing bits and bits, like one piece of information at a time. It could be a piece of information, it could be a question as well, right? But as a user, I essentially have to just look at 2 or 3 message bubbles, consume it, and respond to it. I don't have to go through a 400, 500 word page or words of in the landing page and try to figure out what I should be doing. Here, the user is actually controlling what they want to look at, and you essentially are driving the user through the entire conversation. So it's basically a very defined piece of information, very little information that the user has to go through. The second thing is nobody likes to fill out forms, but everyone loves to chat. Like uh, I spend a couple of hours on Messenger or a WhatsApp or an iMessage, and I'm pretty sure like almost everyone in the world at this point of time, leaving aside a few exceptions, must be spending a couple of hours on one of these chat applications every day. Now, if we are as humans, we love to text and chat with our friends and family. And the whole idea here is when someone is speaking with your business, with your brand, can you provide the same experience to your users as well, right? The third problem with static landing pages was they were not built for mobile, right? They were built for desktop devices. The thing with conversational landing pages or chatbots is they were built for mobile. Like texting started on mobile devices. WhatsApp was started on mobile only, right? And that's why chat as an interface is very native to mobile devices, and that's why it looks way better and way simpler on mobile as well. And given the fact that 80% of your customers are anyways going to interact with you through mobile, it just makes sense. The final one was the landing pages were the static ones are not intuitive at all. While with chat, everyone knows how to chat. Like all you know that once you land into a chat, there'll be a message bubble on the left and there'll be a message bubble on the right. There's literally no other user interface or any other element on the screen, right? And there's literally zero learning curve in the entire experience. Overall, all of these elements essentially lead to a very engaging experience. I like to call like conversational landing pages as Apple Store of the web, wherein when someone is clicking on an ad and landing into your conversational landing page or a chatbot, there's it feels like you're receiving them, you're trying to help them through your offerings, through your products, services, telling them about it. And if someone is interested, you ask them for information, which is essentially how it happens in an offline world as well, right? So this is just a quick, I just wanted to share a quick case study of sorts of how one of our healthcare customers has been using it. So this is what their, I've put up images from their mobile experience because they get, I think, 90% of the traffic through mobile devices. So this is what their experience looks to look like. You can see a pop-up with a form inside it, and this is on the right. This is what their experience looks like with chat. The result has been a 48% decrease in of their cost per lead and a 92% increase in conversion rate, which essentially means that if they were spending $10,000 on ads earlier, or whatever, if the ad spend remains the same, they are able to generate twice the number of leads using the same ad spend, right? So you can imagine the difference it has happened just replacing a static landing page or a form with a conversational experience. Um, Now I've talked a lot about conversational landing pages, how it looks. I've showed you the example of it as well. But I just feel that you might be wondering how do you go about creating something like this. I won't take or spend much time on it. Um, but basically behind the scenes of what we do is we have a chatbot builder or a conversational landing page builder. At tasks, wherein it's a drag and drop interface where you can essentially make a flow chart of the entire conversation. And you don't need to know any programming knowledge or anything like that. If you are a content person, a marketing guy, you can just make it pretty easily. You guys would anyways have access to this presentation, so you would be able to see in the GIF itself. Like this GIF is going to tell you completely as to how you can create a chat flow or a conversational landing page. So I won't spend much time on it because this is a session in itself as to how you can create something like this. But all I can say is if you have to create a very simple sort of a flow, you can do it about half an hour. So yeah. Um, how much time do we have? Oh, we have 10 to 15 minutes. Okay. So next up, what I wanted to do, which was the last step in the entire session, is I actually wanted to talk about the best practices that we as a team internally at TARS follow to create really good conversation flows that convert. Because the entire aim of a conversational landing page is to make users to convert into a lead, right? So the way we look at it is essentially a sales funnel or a chat funnel. And the whole idea is to create a chat flow or a conversation flow which makes users or which keeps the users engaged. That is one. But secondly, which generates higher conversion rate as well. Now, I've been talking about how conversational landing pages increase your conversion rate and whatnot. But what I would make it clear is the fact that this is not magic. Like, I mean, this demands some best practices. This demands the fact that you create um, really engaging and highly conversion optimized conversation flows, and only then you're going to get a good conversion rate. Like your conversion rate could be a 200% increment as well, or it could be a 50%, or it could be a 20%. That is going to depend on how good of a conversation flow you are creating. And I'm going to talk about some best practices in this over the next 10 minutes, which I felt like are super important and how we go about creating these conversation flows. So jumping right into it, what I've done is I'll just switch back again. What I've done is I've picked up, this is the bot I showed to you earlier, which is the Citibank credit card conversational landing page. And what I did is I picked up their existing or the one they were using earlier, which is a static landing page as well. And I would talk you through how we converted this entire static landing page into a conversational landing page like this, right? Um, Let me jump back into the presentation. Yes. So basically, the first step is something which might seem very trivial, is understanding the customer. Like this is true for every product, everything that you create. Is you have to get into the shoes or the mindset of the user journey. You have to think, what would my user, or what stage or what mindset would my user be in once they've clicked on the ad and landed into my chatbot or a conversational landing page. So this is like super important. Like you need to understand who will be seeing the ad, what is the ad for, what do we want the users to do, what sort of information we want to share with them. So you, before you actually start building your chat flow or your conversation flow, you need to have this clarity in mind, right? The second step is a very crucial nuance, which is basically you have to create a matching experience between your ad copy, which is this. Like if I search for Citibank credit card, I'll get this ad copy. And when I start making a chatbot flow, in the first question, the first gambit, as we call it, I'm trying to convey the same information again. So, for instance, if you see in here, you would see 20% discount, say 20% on every order or something like that, right? On every meal, or free gift vouchers and everything, right? So I'm trying to basically convey the same value proposition that the user has seen on my ad into my first gambit or the first conversation, first piece of information that I provide to the user. So, for instance, when we help our customers in creating these chatbots or chat flows, we actually ask them for their current ad copy. This could be a display ad, this could be a search ad as well. So, this is the first thing you need to keep in mind. The second thing is, so basically what we've seen is if someone lands into a chatbot and if they take certain action, this could be pressing a button, this could be typing in some information. If they do that, the chances of them completing the entire chat flow is relatively very high compared to someone who doesn't even start the conversation, right? So what we need to do is keep the first question really simple. Like, it should be so simple that the person doesn't really have to think to answer that question, right? For instance, and it's always good to keep them as optional options or like buttons where a person can just tap instead of typing anything, because tapping on something doesn't take any effort. Typing does take an effort, right? So basically, we are asking them a very simple question, which is, do you have an existing Citibank credit card or not? Like, a person doesn't really have to think. He would know if they have a credit card or not, and they would just have to say yes or I don't have, right? And with this question, you would also be able to qualify if this is an existing customer or not. So that is the second nuance, or the third nuance. Basically, keep the first question very simple, a binary question, something like a yes or a no, as simple as that. Like, for instance, a lot of people, what I see is people generally ask, how are you doing, or what can I help you with? Like, this is such an open-ended question that nobody is gonna start chatting with you. You have to keep it very simple, very binary. This is again, like, there's no rocket science behind this, but the fact that you shouldn't be asking for personal details right away. Like, if I'm meeting you in person, offline, you won't be like, can I have your phone number? Like, but this is what happens on a traditional landing page. You would have a form which says your name, your phone number, your email, and that's pretty much it, right? But that's not how conversations work in offline world. So the idea is provide some value to the user before asking for anything from them. For instance, in this question, we're just asking which credit card do you want to apply for, and we are sharing information about the different offers on different credit cards that are there, right? And once they provide an answer to this, only then we will jump into asking for personal details. The next step is basically, this is sort of a product related nuance, but you should be sharing whatever you would share in a traditional landing page over a chatbot as well. So for instance, you can see here that, if depending on the kind of card, if it's a fuel, if it's a shopping, if it's a cashback card, you have different sort of offers available on here. We try to convey the same information using sort of an image card where you have the image of the credit card, and then we give them more information about each credit card. So the idea is, a person should know, like, obviously the interface is very different. The interface is chat, but even there you can provide the same amount of information that you would do in a traditional landing page. The next, and the like, there are just tons of best practices in there, and that's why we try to create something called a tear down video every week. But in this session, I'll just talk about the sixth and the last nuance, um, which is so these are very small practices, but these actually make a lot of difference when you start writing your chat flows. And this is the final one I wanted to share today: is give a reason as to why you're collecting any personal data, right? Because you cannot be saying, please share your phone number, because I don't know why you want my phone number. But if you look here, we've actually given a reason as to why we want your phone number. I'll be connecting you with our banking expert to help you with your application. So I need your number so that the person can call you up. If we are asking for email address, we are telling them that I want to share more rewards and offers with you, so that, just share your email and I can share this information with you. So the idea is to give them some information, or and give a reason whenever you're collecting any personal piece of information. Having said that, um, all of us as marketers are pretty greedy. We want information, or we want lead data, right? So what I generally suggest is ask one piece of information. Could be the phone number, or could be the email, in the second or the third gambit. Gambit basically means, like, the first question, the second question, and the third question. In the second or the third question, ask for some piece of information. Could be a phone, could be an email. because the beauty of chat interface or beauty of chatbots, at least in our case, is even if a person drops during the conversation, like they give their phone number and then they drop off, you will still have all the lead data, which is not true for a form. Like unless and until you fill the entire form and click on submit, as a marketer, you won't get all this data in your CRM, right? But with chatbots, at least the task chatbots or conversational landing pages, as soon as someone fills in any information, it gets directly directed to your CRM or in our dashboard, right? So try to get some piece of information, because even if the person drops off, you would still have their lead information. So that's pretty much about it. Like, I mean, I hope you found this helpful. I'm trying to share a few best practices in here and must have given you a good sense of what conversational landing pages are and how you can go about creating something like this really quickly. In any case, you can reach out to me or us on our website. This is my direct email. And for all the attendees today, we are giving an offer as well, where our team of conversational design experts will actually go through your existing landing page, and we will review it, and we'll help you, or we will actually create the entire conversational landing page for you, which you can start using in your ad campaigns and see the difference. So obviously we won't be able to do it for everyone. So what we've done is you can just go on this link, which is again a chatbot link, where you can just go and apply, share your landing page link. Our team will review it and get back to you if we'll be able to, if you are one of those two lucky ones who who get a free conversation landing page. Yep, that's pretty much it. I hope this was really helpful for you guys. Yep.
Yeah, that was a really great presentation, Ish. I'm sure our audience must have loved it too. But there's one thing I would want to highlight from your entire presentation. Uh, it was that single line on a single slide. It said, "Conversational landing pages are the Apple Store of the web." Where did you get this idea from?
I don't know, but I was actually so I think I was going through our existing blog post or something, or I think I got this from one of our customers itself. I was on a call with someone, and they were like, "I feel like this is an Apple store," and I was like, "Yeah, this does make sense." And I just picked it from there and put it in my slides. This is not me. So, but I definitely like this analogy, and people just get it, so I keep using it now. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the sound of it. So we can quickly move on to the Q&A section now. I see we have a lot of questions in here, but I'll again use my moderator privileges to the advantage and put my question first. Uh,
Sure.
so I just wanted to know how is it different from a regular chat interface, right? So people have been using many other chat tools as well. So
Mhm.
how do you position it different from a regular chat interface?
Right. That's a good question, right? So first up, the normal chat interface could be a live chat or could be a chat bot, right? It could be completely automated as well. So I won't dive into a live chat because you would know the challenges with a live chat experience. There has to be someone behind the scene to answer those questions. So I would move primarily to a chatbot interface and answer um, why we are trying to do what we're trying to do, right? What we realize is um, conversational interfaces or chatbots are a very new interface as such, and nobody really knows. Like people haven't spent enough time in figuring out what really works, and we as a company are trying to spend too much time not on just on the product side, but on actually thinking about what kind of conversations really work. And I think we will have to drive all of these best practices and stuff like that is all through that effort. So I feel the other players in the market are I think they should start spending time on figuring out what sort of conversations really work, like how can you create really optimized conversation flows, because I guess at VWO that's what you guys do as well. You help people figure out what landing page or what page is working better using your A/B test, right? And you would say, okay, this button is not at the right place, move it to the left or the right. But in a chatbot, the only thing that matters is what you are writing, and that's pretty much it. Now people haven't done it before, so someone would have to come in and figure out what really works best in a conversational experience, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out what really works in terms of the conversation flow and not just the technology and the product. Does that answer your
Right.
question? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it does. So the second question actually came in through email. So David Behag, I'm sorry, David, if I pronounced the name wrong. But David asks, can they integrate into e-commerce stores, particularly product pages, or is it just for lead gen pages?
um so I would say, so for us, we have primarily worked with lead generation where there's a some sort of a non-transactional use case on the landing page. So think about travel, healthcare, real estate, financial services. Like all of these sectors have a pure play lead generation happening on their landing pages. With e-commerce, it's not like if you're looking for a shirt or a jeans or a pair of jeans, you would want to go through a number of options, right? Which is not really possible with a chat interface. Having said that, you can make a chatbot a part of your product pages where you can where the chatbot can be like sort of an assistant answering questions about the product, but it won't be a transactional. I mean, my suggestion would be not to use chatbot for pure play transactions on your landing pages. It could assist on a product page, but it cannot be, at least from what I know at this point of time, it cannot be the entire product page in itself because that would demand a lot of integrations and whatnot. Plus, I'm not sure if chat is at least with the current technology, it's the best way to buy products online.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll be on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Shannon is asking, can you include more information than just a chatbot on the page?
So basically, if you one second, let me just jump out of it. You can actually, right? So for instance, you behind the scenes, like for instance, this is, I think you should be able to see my screen, but this is our chatbot or our landing page. And you can see that we've added a piece of text in here, which tells people as to what we do. And then we say, chat with us to find out more. So you can add other information. It could be a logo, it could be a background image, or it could be just pure text on your screen. But my suggestion again would be not to bombard people with a lot of text or information. Yeah. Again, keep it. Yeah.
Right. I think Sumit has a question quite similar to this one. So it's a pretty lengthy one. So he is particularly asking that the PPC landing page is not exactly the application form. Customers are looking for some more information,
Hmm.
comparison with the market, and doing all the research before filling out the form. In
Right.
that case, would you recommend merging the existing landing page and the application page into one when creating a conversational landing page?
Makes sense. That is actually a pretty good question, and this is something I get on a daily basis, right? so, so basically, when I say conversational landing page, I'm not really cutting down on any information that I'm providing to the user. Like even in here, I will provide every piece of information that was on this particular landing page. It's just that I am providing this information to the user when they ask for it. I'm not just giving it out to the user and asking them to figure it out. Once they are on a page where they say yes, they're interested in going or they're applying for a credit card, only then I will share information about different credit cards, right? But if you actually go through this particular chatbot, we are essentially sharing in every piece of information that was on this particular landing page. We are not. It's not just a form converted into a chatbot. It's the entire information, all the information, all the all the offers and everything that are on this page have actually been conveyed. It's just that people are, or the user is getting this information one at a time and not all of the information at once. Yeah.
Okay. Another question is coming from Brian. So Brian has a question about security. So he's asking, how do we ensure that a personal information that a user is sharing is stored securely with chatbots?
We're using the same servers. It's the same AWS and a Mongo behind the scenes. So even if your landing page, it's going to be pretty much on the same on the same servers, on the same architecture as well. So it's essentially if you look at it, this is essentially a web page. Don't think about chatbot as something from the other world. This is essentially a web page. It's just that the interface is different. Like if I do a view page source, you would see the entire HTML for this. Like this is a normal web page, just that this web page was buttons and fields and stuff like that. Here, it's basically chat interface. But essentially, behind the scenes, it's an HTML web page only. There's nothing different with it. So from a security perspective, it's the same. And from our platform perspective, we even work with the U.S. government agencies from that for that matter, right? So all of this is taken care of, and again, it's the same servers and everything. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that is something I think, yeah.
Okay. I hope you got the answer, Brian.
I,
A closely related question here. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, otherwise just drop me an email and I can answer.
Sure. Another close or similar question is coming from Aryan. So Aryan is basically asking, do conversation landing pages affect SEO?
Um, Not really. Like, I would. Okay, let me actually think about it a bit because
Since it is
um,
a web page, basically, so is there something that people can do for to make it visible on the on search engines?
actually our chatbots rank higher on for certain keywords than the brands itself, right? And so the parameters in here are pretty similar to what a normal web page has. Like there's a meta title which you can define, there's a meta image, there's a favicon which you can define, and all of this text which is in the chatbot, not just the first one, but the entire information, the entire conversation or the entire script that you write in the chatbot is actually being indexed by Google. So it's not just three sentences in here that are indexed by Google, it's the entire conversation flow, the entire script, which would come down to around 300, 400 words eventually, is being indexed by Google, right?
Okay.
So the last 2.5 years, we haven't really seen any effect on SEO from that perspective. Yeah.
Okay. Hope that answers your question, Aryan. If not, you can always get in touch with Ish post this presentation. We'll take one last question because we are sort of out of time. This question is from Shannon. So, okay, so this is a pretty interesting question. Have you done any user testing, any research to see if users are confused about being presented a chatbot versus information landing page? What are the bounce rates that you have found or experienced?
Right. So in on our end, we basically have two numbers. One is the interaction rate and the second is conversion rate. What an interaction rate basically means is, say if 100 people are coming on this particular page, how many people actually do something on this? And what we've seen is our interaction rates are as high as 70-75% in some of the cases, which basically means that a user came in and, like, out of 100 users, 75 people actually did some activity on the bot and they interacted with it and didn't just bounce off when they saw the bot, right? Compared it to your traditional pages where the bounce rates are pretty high. They would be like in some cases 70-80% high as well, right? So what we have seen is uh, I would call it a novelty of the interface as well, because people are just curious as to what this thing is, and they just go ahead and keep doing something with it. So obviously this novelty might die after a few years, but from user testing we have seen that obviously there are a few people who would be like, I don't know what this interface is, but majority, like 70-80% of the people actually go ahead and do something on the chat. And obviously it depends on, like, if I say here, what can I help you with, nobody's gonna interact with it, they're just going to drop off. But if you have a simple question in here, which jumps back to the best practice that I shared earlier, if you keep it, like, if you keep your first question very interesting, very simple, people are going to start off the conversation. So it again boils down to how good of a conversation flow you're creating. But yeah, I mean, I think that answers the question, because it could
Okay.
be very big, but yeah, that's something I would share.
So, and again, Shannon, yeah, if you have more questions for Ish, Ish, can we move back to the presentation, the offer slide,
Yep.
so that
Yes.
people can take a quick screenshot of this page, and you can contact Ish using his email ID. And of course, don't forget to click on the offer link to get your page transformed into a conversation landing page. Uh, so yeah, that's due to time crunch limitation, I would end the Q&A here. Sorry, guys. We'll answer your questions offline. Yep, with that, it's time to close this webinar. And thank you so much, Ish, for your time and effort that you've put into creating this wonderful presentation.
No worries at all. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful for all the people who joined in. Yeah, and spent half
It
an
sure
hour, 40
was.
minutes.
It
Yes.
sure was. It was quite insightful. And yeah, thank you everyone for attending this webinar. Uh, Please fill in the survey that will turn up once this webinar is closed. Your feedback will help us a lot. Also, feel free to reach out to me or Ish directly after this webinar if you have any follow-up questions.